I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself. I'm Patrick Baker. I'm the director of the South Dakota Arts Council. And I just want to welcome you all here today and thank you for participating in today's session. Some of you were probably in the sessions we had Tuesday as well. So on behalf of the South Dakota Arts Council staff and board, I just want to welcome you all here today and just say this is a really exciting moment for the South Dakota Arts Council to kind of be coming to fruition about 4 years worth of planning and working with first of all, the North Dakota Council on the Arts and their folklorist and traditional arts program manager, Troy Geist, in this fantastic program called Art for Life, which you either already know about or are interested in, and that's why you're here today. And in 2017, the South Dakota Arts Council had the opportunity to partner with the North Dakota Council on the Arts to take the Art for Life toolkit and send that around to all, at that time, registered community arts councils and registered elder care facilities in the state of South Dakota. And this was done, I think, through actually a really generous gift from the Bush Foundation, I believe is. So I should have thanked them on Tuesday and I forgot to do that. But this program is amazing. You're going to hear shortly from two people that I met in 2017 in Enderlin, North Dakota. And it was just a fantastic trip. I met with Troy Geist there. Our folklorists at the time made this site visit. And it was truly the moment things started to click for me. And actually seeing how this works and how it can be done and gave me the confidence to know that this was a program really worth investing in for the state of South Dakota. And so I'm really excited that we have them on the docket for today, as well as another great activity with an artist later today. I'll just say for those who weren't here Tuesday, we do have 2 pilot sites in South Dakota right now, one in Sisseton. You heard from the Sisseton Arts Council and an artist there on Tuesday, and also their Edgewood facility in Sisseton has been a great partner for the Art for Life program. We also are partnering with the Chautauqua Artisans Market in Hot Springs to work with the State Veterans Home, where South Dakota Arts Council Deputy Director Rebecca Cruz, who is on the call today, that's where her office is. So we have all kinds of things sort of coming together in this nexus of creative aging. And this is made possible through a grant that we applied for and received in, well, actually the work was going on a year ago this month, but we received it in early 2021. And so I do want to thank the National Assembly of State Arts Agencies and Aroha Philanthropies out of Minneapolis, Minnesota, for funding this creative aging opportunity, which we are recognizing as an opportunity to expand Art for Life and to bring in new partners to help train artists who are interested in the program. And I should also thank, of course, Troy Geist in North Dakota, the North Dakota Council for the Arts, for sharing this great program with us. And also the National Endowment for the Arts for really making creative aging a priority for state arts agencies across the nation. And so without further ado, I just want to thank you again for all being here and participating. We look forward to working with all of you in the future on this great project.
Thanks, Patrick. And let's turn it over to Nancy and Lollie.
Hi, everybody. It's great to be here with you. Lollie and I are really excited because the Art for Life program is something that we are really passionate about and have seen how it's affected people's lives here in Enderlin. So we're really happy to be sharing information with you about this program. We want to start and just tell you a little bit about ourselves. My name's Nancy Farnham. I was born in South Dakota in Sioux Falls, so came from your area, grew up in Fargo, married for a long time, have a couple of grown sons and one little darling granddaughter who's just a delight. I got my bachelor's degree in music therapy years ago. That's how I started out my career. And also I'm a licensed social worker and licensed nursing home administrator. I've worked in long-term care over 40 years, starting as a nurse's aide when I was in college, and worked in activities and social work. And then the last 27 years of my career, I worked at Mary Hill Manor here in Enderlin as the administrator. So I was the administrator when Art for Life started there, and worked on the Art for Life committee for a lot of years, and enjoyed it so much that when I retired 2 years ago, I had time then to focus on the things that I really enjoy in life. And one of them is the Art for Life program. So I've continued to be on the committee as a volunteer and work with that group and just enjoy it so much. So it will continue to be an important part of my life for a long time. I'm hoping. So glad to be here with you today and tell you more about Art for Life. Lollie?
Yes, and I am Lollie Adair, and I'm with the Enderlin Fine Arts Association. Enderlin is a small town of around 900 people. I grew up in East Grand Forks, Minnesota, across the river from Grand Forks, so I came from a little bit bigger community and adapted, came here and taught here for 47 years in the school system. Mostly elementary, but ended up being the K through 12 librarian. When I came, we didn't have a fine arts organization. And so back in '97, one of my friends decided it was time to get us organized. And so I've been with the organization since then in various capacities. I was the president of our Fine Arts Board when the Art for Life program started. And since then I've retired from the board and now I'm back on the board, but that's the way it is in small towns. Anyway, I have always continued being the facilitator of the Art for Life program since we got it back in 2011. So, that's a little bit about me and our fine arts organization. Our presentation today will be an explanation of how we run our Art for Life program. We'll talk about how we got started and the benefits to our community. We'll talk about the nuts and the bolts, the things we wish we had known from the start that somebody would have told us about. And we're hoping that you will take away some ideas that you'll be able to incorporate into your own programs. Like I said, well, no, I'm not going to go that far yet. We our Mary Hill Manor and the Fine Arts received the Governor's Award for the Arts in 2021. And it was a complete honor to be recognized like that, but I'm not bragging. The awards ceremony, a video was created for it, explaining our Art for Life program and how it has benefited our Mary Hill residents, our school, and our community as a whole. And we thought the video was so well done that it gives you an introduction to us and our program. And so we're going to share a portion of that video with you now. And it'll show some of the art projects that we've done through our most recent years. So Nancy, you want to take it away?
Okay.
The premise of the program is that arts will help relieve the loneliness, the boredom, the lack of purpose that our elderly experience when they're in caregiving facilities like this.
Art is so very, very powerful. It brings beauty to our world. It is a way to express things. People often don't have words to express what they're feeling, and it gives them that ability to do that. It brings people together. It helps bridge divides between groups, and it just shows the world what's possible.
And so by bringing artists in, by having the residents doing purposeful projects with the arts and the folk arts, the quilting, that's something that they're familiar with. And it'll bring on conversations then that they can relate to.
Art influences people to tell their stories about their lives. When we did the Tree of Life project, questions that were asked were about their marriage, about growing up, about different things in their life. And so they were able to think about those things that they haven't talked about in a long time or shared with other people, and share their story.
It's humbling. I have a sense of pride because I work with these people on the committee, and I've seen the results of the hard work of the residents. We get our school kids involved. We get our community coming into Maryhill. And so the fact that this committee has worked together to create this community, a larger community within Maryhill, that brings a lot of pride. It's humbling in the fact that I know there are other towns across the state of North Dakota that are involved in the Art for Life program. And then for ours to be selected to receive the Governor's Award, it's a very much an honor. Whoops.
All right,
Okay.
hold on.
Okay, are we back on?
Are we with you?
Yes, we can see you.
Okay. Oh, you can see us.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, I hope
Excellent
you paid
video.
attention to the some of the artwork that was being shown on there. And we've been in existence since 2011, 10 years now. And so that's kind of those are some of the most recent ones that we have done. And as we prepared for this, we've just been amazed at how many activities we've been able to bring to our residents and our community in this past 10 years. It is quite the program. Troy, we got started. I'm going to give you a little history now. We got started when Troy Geist approached one of our fine arts members and asked if Enderlin would be interested in the program. Well, Maryhill said they were. The Enderlin Fine Arts said they were interested. So we formed a committee with 3 representatives from Maryhill, 3 representatives from the fine arts. And a couple of those people went to a conference similar to what you are attending now. It was put on by Troy Geist, and he explained the program and had different artists there explaining what they could do with our residents. And I think as I look back, the formation of that committee was an important piece. The 3 people from Maryhill, one of them was Nancy, the administrator. There was the activities director and another person related that worked with a lot of the activities at Maryhill also. And from the fine arts, it was myself as a president and 2 other people. And these people all understood the importance of art to the elderly. And it was kind of a commitment, and that came from within, I guess. The personnel has changed at Maryhill. They have gone through 2 other administrators now since Nancy left, and both of them have quickly caught on to the value of the program. I went off of the Fine Arts Board. I'm no longer president, but my fine arts organization is so supportive of what we are doing, that in the 6 months that we are not funded, they provide funds so we can continue bringing activities to our people. Let's see here. The activities director being on that committee is very crucial, in that they are the people who see that the residents get to the activities, and they meet up with the artists when the artists show up at the care facility. They're really the ones that pull the pieces together when it happens. Myself as the facilitator, my job is to see that the meetings happen for this committee, and that we know who's responsible for getting the artist, getting the things done that need to get done for the activity. Yeah, it's kind of just making sure things fall into place.
She keeps us organized. in
Yeah.
other words. And we need somebody to do that.
Right. So yeah, those are very key people to have on your planning committee. I'm going to go into a little more detail now on the logistics of how we do things. And like, these are some of the things I wish people would have told us before we jumped into the water. Like, how do you know what to do? How do you coordinate things between the Art Council and the care facility? Is there paperwork? How much of it? What do you do? Where do you find your artists and your activities? So that's kind of the next little bit that I'm going to cover. I don't claim to be an expert. I can only tell you what has worked for us. And every organization is different. Every care facility is different. You're going to find what works for you, but maybe you'll catch an idea that you'll be able to take with you and do a variation of it. How do you know what to do, and how do you coordinate with the two organizations? I would say, for us, I wish somebody would have told us, look at your grant, know what the grant requires, and study that. We knew we had two big requirements that all our planning kind of goes around. One of them was that half of our activities had to be folk art. And then another one was to partner with a youth organization. And it takes planning. If you're going to be working with a youth organization, you got to find a group that's willing, and then to coordinate, who's going to do all that. So our committee, we generally meet once a month. We try, let's put it that way. And when we plan activities, we try to 3 months or more in advance. We start the planning. Our first meeting generally is brainstorming, and everybody is encouraged to throw out ideas for activities, artists they know, and we just make a list. And once we have that list, we gradually start narrowing it down to, this is what we can do in September. This is what we can do in October. Let's try do this in December. That kind of thing. And then we really start working out the details. Who will contact the artist? Who will, whatever the details happen to be. My goal as facilitator, I've always wanted to try do 2 events 2 activities a month. We don't always do it, but it's a goal to shoot for. One of those activities, it kind of falls into place when we line up working with our group at the school. We work with the 4th grade class at school, and we do monthly visits between the students and the residents. And so that is one monthly visit and art activity that is automatically there during the school year. And so then it's a matter of finding another one. Once we kind of get it figured out what we want to do, it's somebody contacts the artist, whoever happens to know them, or myself as the facilitator. I'll get in touch with the artist, and once we've made that initial contact, then I put the artist in touch with the activities director at the care facility at Maryhill, and they arrange, they do the date, they figure out the date, they figure out the time, and work out that those logistics. If anything else is needed, volunteers to help with the activity, then I'll probably figure out where they are going to come from also. I keep track of the money. That is one of the things that I have as the money flows through our fine arts organization. So it's up to me to make sure that I know where our money situation is at, and I keep our committee informed on that all the time too. So you want to make sure you get your grant money spent in time. Otherwise, you end up turning the money back in. And I don't want to do that. So I think that's about it. Nancy, do you want to talk about the benefits to the nursing home?
Sure, I will talk about what I see as benefits to the nursing home from an administrator's standpoint. It just has so many benefits. It's hard to remember to mention them all, but I'll start with the resident satisfaction. You want your residents to be happy, and that's the main goal we all have. I think working at a nursing home, that's our heart. You want them to enjoy life where they are now. And one of the things the Art for Life program says is, Dr. Bill Thomas, who developed the Eden Alternative, he talked about loneliness, boredom, and helplessness being the 3 plagues of the elderly in the nursing homes. And the art activities help combat all those plagues. The loneliness, when the 4th graders come in and they are looking for their residents, it's that loneliness disappears. And then when the community group comes in, there's relationships there that continue on. And so that loneliness is alleviated. And boredom, how can you be bored when you're busy doing an art activity with a bunch of other people or creating something on your own? It's just not there. And the helplessness too. With the kids, the seniors take a big role in assisting the kids. Sometimes it's the other way around. A senior might not be able to see very well, and the child will help provide the eyes for that person. But sometimes it's the elderly person teaching the young person something, and especially the 4th graders. When they're talking about life, one of the activities they just did was games, learning about games that the residents played and then playing them, and how fun for the the residents to pass some of that information on, and for the kids to have a good time. And so that helplessness disappears. And we see things happening, like they're making gifts for family. We had one of our early activities. I was reminded of it just the other day. We had a Christmas party for an organization at a friend's house, and there hanging right in her entry was one of the art projects that her mother had done and made for her. So, you know, there's that pride and that ability to give people something like that was created by them. Also, just that reviving of old talents, you know, gives them a chance to use some of those talents that they had in their life before the nursing home. It gives them a place for them. I'll show you this little guy. You saw it in the video too. We did a needle felting project, and this was one we opened to the community. So people were doing it side by side, residents and community people together. And I tell you, some of the ladies from the nursing home, when they were doing this, they were speedsters. I mean, they knew what to do, and they had those needles going. And how fun for people in the community to see that, and to see those elders in a whole different light, because they were leading the class. I tell you, they were the stars of that class. So it revives the old talents, gives them that place to use them and to be respected for it. And then maybe to find new talents. We had one activity where as part of it, the artist who was working passed around Post-it notes, and people were supposed to draw whatever they wanted or write a word, and then they passed it around the group. Well, as it was going around the group, everybody was saying, you could hear this little murmur, who drew this horse? You know, because like people were given 30 seconds to do this drawing, and who drew this? Who drew this? And well, when it was finally revealed who drew it, people were just like, wow, that was May who drew that? I didn't know she could do that. And she just beamed. So, you know, it gives you a chance to give those kind of moments to people. The family satisfaction, that goes up because they are seeing their loved one really happy, and we're finding out things about their loved one and sharing those with them. And that shows too that we're really interested in that loved one. So the family satisfaction goes up. The staff satisfaction too. Staff are happier if the residents are happier. You know, happy residents a lot easier to care for than somebody who's upset and lonely and depressed. And, you know, so it makes life more enjoyable for everybody. And they also see the residents in a different light. They see that they do have talents and interests and are still able to do a lot of things. And then sometimes the staff are invited to join in the activities as well, so they get to have some fun in their day. So that improves staff morale. And then community relationships, I talked about that a little bit already with the needle felting, but it's so fun to invite the community in for some of the classes and for them to be peer-to-peer with residents. It creates a whole different environment and atmosphere and relationship between people. And we've had relationships with the kids and the residents develop where, you know, they've come in and said, well, where's my resident? Because the person they were meeting with wasn't out in the dining room when they came in. And we had 2 young high schoolers who were part of one of our projects who developed a close relationship with a resident who passed away. And they asked for permission from the school to be excused from class to go to his funeral. So those relationships are really quite touching, and they just do a lot for everybody involved.
Okay. I am to go back to the paperwork. about what's involved there. Again, I want to stress, look at your grant, see what kind of information you need to fill out the final report. That's the one that I think piece of paperwork that we probably spend the most time on, is that final report. You will need to figure out what is needed, for example, in our grant, we have to report the number of residents that participate in the activities. We have to know how many youth were involved, how many volunteers, staff members. We have to keep track of the hours that volunteers spend, as well as the money that is spent by Maryhill and also by the Fine Arts. So those are some of the data that we have to put into the final report. So as you're going along, you're going to need some way to keep track of, okay, we're having this art event. How many residents do we have here? How many staff members are here? How many volunteers? That type of thing. And one person needs to be responsible for that. And if you can figure out a way that works for you, it was a trial and error method that we did for a number of years until we finally got a system that seems to work. We also, with ours report, have a narrative, and that needs to be questions that need to have paragraphs written about. And that needs to be substantiated with photographs. And so we've learned, take lots of photographs. Even though we only have to submit 5, we have found that those photographs they help our memories when it comes to filling out the report on which residents were actually there for which activity. And, oh, so-and-so was a volunteer that day. Okay, I forgot about that. So make sure you're taking lots of pictures during your activities. It really helps when it comes to that final report. Our group also splits up the work on that final report also. I take over the responsibility of doing the financial part, and Maryhill it takes over the narrative part. And we call on other people for their expertise, because on my report, I need to know how much money Maryhill spent or in-kind hours, or whatever. I need that information, so I'll get that from them. And when it comes to the narratives, they will call on different people to help with that. But there's one person at Maryhill that takes care of the narrative and makes sure that it gets done for the final report. So there really isn't a lot of paperwork. I mean, if you can simplify it and determine a person to be responsible for the data that you need from the start, go with it. I guess that's about it for paperwork. Can you think of any paperwork I missed?
Well, Lollie mentioned the photographs, and I'll just add on there, that's a wonderful opportunity for the nursing home to get some great PR, because you'll take some really super pictures, and with those pictures going out in your media in town, Facebook or your website or the newspaper, people people's perception of your long-term care facility are going to change, because it's the place to come to have fun. You know, it's the place to come and do a lot of neat things. So, and those pictures show that with the happy faces.
Mhm, mhm. Okay, we're going to kind of switch gears now and start showing you some of the activities that we have done. And we'll have just little brief explanations about where the artists come from and, you know, how things went with that. So I know that was one of my concerns. I didn't know where to even start getting hold of artists. You know, how do we spend all this money? You know, so we called on family, we called on friends, we called on teachers, and of course, full-fledged artists. Troy Geist was wonderful in getting us names of people who would work well with the elderly. And there are a number of them that work well with the elderly and with the young people at the same time. And so when you're doing activities with your youth group, you know, with our fourth graders and our elderly, it's two different skills, but some artists are very good at working with both age groups. So yeah, some of these activities, you got to remember, we've been doing this for 10 years. And so it's going to seem like it's a lot of activities, but it is. You do a lot in 10 years.
We've forgotten some of the things we've
Yes,
done, so
right.
we kind of had fun looking back. So
Yeah.
we're just giving you some different examples to show you. So we have some pictures to go along with them. I'm going to share my screen again, and hopefully all will work well. Let's see. I just got to figure out the right order to do it. Okay. Can you see it?
Yes, yes, we can.
Okay. Well, Patrick had asked about this. This is a mural. I wish I could have found a little better picture, but you can see on the wall behind that cute little girl and the resident who's sitting there, that there's a mural painted on the wall. And this was one of our first activities. It actually was facilitated by artists that came from South Dakota, Mark Zimmerman and Mary. And the way we found out about them was our director of nursing at the time is related to Mark. And so when we started the Art for Life committee and we're talking about things we could do, she said, well, you know, Mark could maybe do something with the residents. So this is a mural that they designed, and it involved quilting. You can see the quilt squares. The railroad, we're a big railroad town, so the railroad was in there. And then there also was a piece that incorporated farming. So it was all things that were important to the residents. And they, the high school was also involved with this project, but they did this mural plus another smaller one in the activity room, and they did it in 4 days. And it was amazing to watch those walls be transformed, and amazing to watch the residents. We had two in particular, a man and a woman who spent many hours every day working on this mural. They were just enthralled with it and enjoyed it so much. And staff members were surprised, especially with the man. You know, sometimes men are a little harder to get involved in different activities, and he just loved it. He was busy painting, like I said, many hours every day. So this was one of our first ones. Here I just threw in a poster to show you some of the advertising we would do when we invited community in for different projects. And we would charge the community for some of them. And they would come in. Sometimes we did it in the afternoon on a weekend, sometimes in the evening. But those were really successful events.
One person we call on regularly is one of our committee members. She also happens to be the director of the Enderlin Museum. She does something we call living history. Periodically, she'll bring items from the museum and visit with the residents about them. These items bring about all kinds of memories and stories that work their way into the conversations. They've looked at cream separators, irons, butter churns. She takes notes and occasionally will incorporate their comments into the exhibits at the museum. Another time, you can see her working here with the sewing machine with one of our youth. But this story I'm going to tell you now is she's working with our gals on a simple apron. As the ladies were visiting about the sewing projects, it came out that our city hall was the home of a WPA apron factory back in the 30s. She didn't know anything about it, as well as most residents in Enderlin didn't know anything about it. And she checked with the North Dakota Heritage Center and they substantiated that bit of information. So again, it was our elders who taught us something about our own town.
This is a picture of a drama group. This is actually the one act group that competed in our state from Enderlin. And what ended up happening is we had to have a drama teacher who's very interested in the elders, and she would have a summer theater group and bring them into Mary Hill, and they would do different little skits. They'd involve the residents. They would find out about the residents' life, and they would write little skits about their life and then put it on for the residents. They'd clown around, work with the residents on costumes, and just do different things together. But what the drama teacher found out is that it was the stories of the residents' lives that really was the focus, that really meant something to the students and to the residents when they were sharing those stories. So what ended up resulting from that was that the drama teacher wrote a one-act play about the nursing home and about several of the residents there, and put on this play for the community. And it was just beautifully done. They portrayed the residents in such a wonderful way. It was really a meaningful experience for everybody.
Okay. I'm going to talk about the fourth graders. I talked about them a bit ago. They come and visit our residents on a monthly basis. Our fourth graders were selected as a group because in fourth grade, they study North Dakota history. And what better way is there to learn about the history than talking to a resident about the old days, the olden days. So in September, the students are typically paired up with a resident, and there's usually more students than residents, so they will go two kids to one resident, and they get to know each other in September. Well, this year with COVID restrictions that were going on, they did a video visit. The kids stayed at school, the residents were at Mary Hill, and it was all coordinated so they could visit with a resident and get to know one another that way. Each month, they are given a topic from a book called Sundogs and Sunflowers, Folklore and Folk Art from the Great Northern Plains. The topic for, let's just say, the month of October this year was games. Wasn't it games? No, it was dance. It was dance and music. And so since it was nice in October, they met outdoors, and the residents got up and danced the dances that they danced, and the kids showed them the dances that they danced, and they listened to each other's music. So different months, it's different topics, but there's always a segment in the book that before they do their visit, the teacher will go through that segment in the book with the kids. So the kids are kind of aware of what the topic is, and the activities director will go through that very same segment with the residents before the kids come. So they're kind of familiar with what the topic is going to be. So when they meet up, they start sharing. Some of the topics that they've covered, well, this month it'll be Christmas, the holiday traditions and foods. And the art activity will be a Christmas ornament they'll be making. Some of the topics have been gardening and harvest, food preservation, blizzards, medicine and folk remedies. Like I said, we just had the music and dance one, and with that one, we tied in an artist, African arts person, and he came with his drums, and he did 2 presentations because of COVID. He took his drums to Maryhill, and they drummed. He worked with them, and they all were drumming away. And then he also the next day went to the school and worked with the 4th graders and talked about the African arts. So yeah, that is, let's see. Yeah, I'll talk some more here about the Worley art. This was one of our more memorable intergenerational visits. Worley art is a traditional folk art from India. And they did, and you can see in the background there, 3 red paintings, or paintings on red paper. Worley art is typically done on a special red paper with white paint. The topic was animals. And so there was much discussion about animals. And we also did some other related things to animals. And this one was a visit from the Chihinkapah Zoo. They actually came from the zoo in Wabaton to Enderlin with this python. They came with a llama, a baby buffalo, and was it an owl?
Yes, a
Yes.
little tiny owl.
A little tiny owl.
Oh, and excuse
so
me.
Yes.
If you move your mouse down, we've got your bar across the image. So
How do I get rid of that?
maybe if you click your mouse down on the.
Oh, it's just moving to another picture.
Sorry.
Oh, that's too bad.
Shoot. There
Oh,
you
there,
go. I can drag it
There,
down.
Okay. There you see the python.
Thank
Thank you.
The kids and the residents all got to touch them if they wanted to. And the llama even went visiting the residents who were not able to make it to the dining room. The zoo guy there took him down the hallway, and there you'll see him.
And I have to tell this quick story. They knocked on the door of one of the residents, and it might have been this guy. they knocked on the door and they said, yeah. And they said, can we come in? We have a llama to show you. What? A llama. And the guy says, oh, sure, come in. And they came in and it was, oh my golly, it is a llama.
Oh, yes. Another activity related to this animal one was a trip to a dairy farm, a field trip. We actually took our residents to a dairy farm, and this dairy farm in our area has the most updated technology for dairy farming that you can get. It's a carousel. The cows are loaded onto a carousel, and the milking machines are just automatically attached, and the cow goes around in a circle, and when he gets back to the chute, off he comes. She comes. So you can just imagine the conversations that went on with our elderly. And of course, with the kids, they've never seen anything like that before in their lives. So yeah, it was a most rewarding experience for both the kids and the residents.
And you can see how, you know, it was tied together. The zoo coming in, the dairy farm trip, that was also tied into living history, where they talked about, you know, did you milk cows? And I think Myrene brought a milking stool or something, and a milk can. And so it was all tied together with this art project. Here's another activity. It's a little blurry, but hand chimes. Being my background's in music therapy, hand chimes was something. Oh, and you can see the mural better. Yeah, yeah, you can see that in the background there too. Hand chimes are a wonderful musical instrument because when you play them, you get a beautiful sound right away. You know, it's not like violin or clarinet or something. You just get that beautiful sound, so it's successful right away. And you need a team to do it too. So there's that feeling of being needed that comes across with the hand chimes. This was really fun because the residents got quite good at it, and we decided to take the show on the road and went to the senior center to provide a Christmas program for them and played some of the Christmas songs that they had learned. And the one lady second from the left, whose face is kind of blurry, I remember really well bringing her home after the concert, and she was just bubbling over, and she said, I have never done anything like this before in my life. I've never put on a music program. My kids are going to be so surprised to hear that I did this. And she was just bubbling. And she was 100 years old. So it was just an amazing day and an amazing experience.
Oh, Nancy and Lollie, we're coming up to about 5 minutes left in the hour. You were doing such a wonderful job, these stories, and it makes me very excited just to know what you've been working on. So I just wanted to let you know that we're getting close to the end.
We're getting close, and we wanted to leave a few minutes for pictures too. What do you think we should do for question and answer? Yeah. Oh, what did I say? Pictures? Yeah. Yeah. For questions.
Yes. How about if we just go to the question and see if anyone has any questions?
Okay.
Yeah. Here, this is a book we created with poems that Nancy's just quickly going to go through. The poems were written after a questionnaire was filled out, and Matthew Masaccio was the poet. And one of the persons at Mary Hill took the pictures, and the items you see here are related to the poem. This gentleman here passed away, and his family used this picture at his funeral. So picture and poem. So it was a very meaningful project for residents and for their families.
And this is one that's selected from the activities on the website, is the Where I'm From.
Yes,
That's a pretty exciting project, I think.
yes, it
Yeah,
is. It
great.
is.
I'm just clicking through so you can see some of the things. COVID, was challenges. So there was art drawn on the windows for people that was personalized to them. And, this resident was a llama. She said, I didn't know the staff knew I liked llamas. And then you're going to have a whole session with Piper. She did the bone and smalling with our residents, and that was actually featured at the local art show this spring. All the residents got to go to the art show and see their work posted. And it was so personal. Things like, have you heard about our town's baseball team? That's up in one corner, and that's something people are proud of. One person's story, I ran away from home and followed my sisters to school. That's on there. So when the residents came, they could see their stories in the finished product. And she also, in the center, there's those 3 kind of flower designs. Those are part of the decor in our auditorium, our city auditorium. So she incorporated something local like that into the product as well. It was beautiful. And we had Chuck Suki, who's considered a North Dakota troubadour, work with our residents during COVID too, through technology, and got information from them, and then ended up writing a song called Listen to the Wise. And it is a beautiful song. Chuck is an amazing artist and composer and songwriter. He just pulls it all together in such a beautiful way. But we do want to take a minute for questions. So if there are some things that you would like to ask about. Are there anything in the chat?
If you'd like, place something in the chat or raise your hand. I'll try to get everybody up on board to see.
Any questions?
Question about working with the 4th grade students.
Mhm.
Did you have one of the things that's come up, I guess for us, is people thinking about, well, what if one of the residents dies? And of course, that's like, that happens in people's lives. People live and they die. And I'm wondering if you had any special talks with the 4th graders, or if the teachers had any special way that they handled that.
I remember that we talked about that as a committee. It was a concern that was brought up from people in our committee as well, but it was really, it did happen. I mean, obviously we did have residents who passed away, and ones that they've gotten attached to. And I think the teachers were really instrumental in talking about it with the students. I think the one even had a book that she read to them. I'm not remembering the name of it, but having those discussions was really important. And I don't know, I would imagine a school counselor could be someone too that could help a teacher to figure out what's the best way to talk about it. Yeah. I know we made a point when they came back and their resident wasn't there because they had passed away, of talking about it then, we bet you're missing Mary. And, she was such a neat lady, and I'm glad you got to know her, making some of those kind of comments. So it was talked about and not just a silent matter. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
been wondering about those fourth grade activities. Who actually plans those? Is it the teacher or is it your group or together? How does that work?
It's our group. Our
Okay.
committee plans them.
Including the art activity then?
Yep. When we talked about the medicine, we talked about home remedies and medicine. We have a local artist who does clay and has a oven kiln. And so they made an Indian medicine ball. I don't know if you can hear that, but there's little balls inside of this. This is one that a resident made. And so it relates to the folk remedies. Yep. Our topics that we choose from come from this book, Sundogs and Sunflowers. And it, like I said, it relates well to the folklore, the folk arts. Yeah, there's blizzard stories in there, and the kids and residents love telling about blizzards. And then we'll have an artist who will come up with, okay, maybe we'll do snowflake cutting. Or we've done, what else have we done with blizzards? I don't remember. It's something, we come up with different activities and different artists. So.
And that's a good recommendation, is to look for a topic and then build an activity around an artist or, who has something to complement it, like the clay artist.
Yeah. Yep.
Are there any more
questions? Yeah.
I just want to comment about what a beautiful presentation that you made. And I can see that Governor's Arts Award is so deserving. And thank you so much. This is really inspirational. And I'm really excited to see. I know there's been great success at Sisseton and at Hot Springs, but I'm really looking forward to the new host communities that are coming online. It's pretty neat.
We wish you the best.
We do.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for letting us be with you. It's been a pleasure.
Well,
You have as much fun as we do.
Yes.
well, the chat is coming in. What a wonderful session it is, and I can see, people's reactions and on screen. So well done.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. We wish you all the best with everything.
Thank you. Well, as you mentioned, Piper is going to join us and run through a session of an actual, arts experience that, and that will come on in at the top of the hour, whether that's 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock coming up, but she'll tune in then. So we'll be taking a break now for a half hour, and let's join up at 1 o'clock, but a round of applause for our presenters.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll be drawing on this wisdom, and we'll stay in touch with you about how things are going.
Okay.